Today we'll be making quick and easy lava terrain with, of course, the Terrain Maker's one true love, bark. Copious amounts of some burnt, some not, bark. Now we have baked that in the oven at a lovely 100 degrees for a good amount of time. I think it was a bit higher than that. And we're going to use this for a lot of our terrain today. Now, while I was building these the first time, I did use a really nice sharp shale. I used to be able to get in a nice huge bag of 20 kilos. Sadly, that is not available anymore, so we have to make alternatives, and the alternative is, of course, a bark, because it has such a lovely texture. Whenever you're looking at bark, that is the sign of a good rock piece. Now, what we're going to do first is look for a few pieces that have nice sharp edges, because that's what I'm going to use mostly in some of our key pieces here. Now what we're doing here is just leaving copious amounts of hot glue all around our base, just where we want our rocky areas to be, our shards to put down. Now mostly I do leave this a little bit, just so the drying time isn't as long once I put these bark pieces in place. But mostly we are just going to place these along the edges of these XPVC pieces, so they create nice large shards kind of poking up in the air, just slightly angled inwards. We're going to do this around the entirety of our piece, just leaving a nice area inside so we can paint our lava later on. Now, while we're building this, we're going to be really careful with where we put our pieces, mostly keeping the larger pieces to the inside, and then starting to put some smaller pieces on the outside, just to create a better gradient to that large lava punctured area. Now this takes a bit of time, and you might need to shore it up a little bit with pieces of bark or other pieces so the hot glue can dry in place, because these do tend to fall over a little bit. Now once that is done, we get to start the next part, and that is using our bark once again on the bottom section of it. We're going to use these kind of as cooled obsidian stone all around our piece, where it's been broken, battered, and of course pushed to the side as the lava font has exploded outwards. The thing I like about this part, it's kind of like a little bark puzzle as we put these pieces down. Kind of finding the right space to put them, nestling up between each other, making really nice gaps between each and every area. We want this to look as natural as possible, like the broken stone and all that kind of stuff. Sharp edges are great, but we might not want to overuse that kind of thing. Just a mixture between large and small pieces here. And while doing this, it's important to know maybe not to fill up the entirety of our base with bark. We want to leave a few areas of hot glue left behind where magma has maybe seeped through and nestled between these various rock pieces. With other gaps we've left behind, we can also use our various basing materials later on to fill those spaces. So don't worry too much about creating that perfect puzzle here. And here we have the completed and painted lovely rocky shards. Now these are going to be our lava areas. You can see we've got some that did chip off. That's okay, we can keep going over the paint. That was mainly just a protective layer. Now we've got a few of them here. Now this is just a quick and easy step for dry brushing. You can do this probably on your own, just gradient it down to wherever you feel comfortable with various types of greys and white dry brushing. I'm going to get this done rather quickly now. Alright, and here we are for the next part. Our things are lovely dry brushed, and now we're going to add a little bit of kind of dusting materials to the sides. A bit more, well, flocks. Well, they're not really flocks, a bit more terrain basings materials. So I do have another one. Now this is very similar to my dirt mix. It is basically just grouting some different colors of sand that I wanted and some small rocks. And that creates a really nice lava base. See, that's got that kind of blackish sheen to it without being too black. and also some nice diversity. Now the sand I put in does, you can create a little bit of like difference there. It gives a little bit of a shine with those lighter materials. It's kind of nice. It can be hard to get the right grey there, so I did mix kind of a bit of black grout with a bit of like greyish grout to get that kind of beautiful, lustrous grey. Alright, let's put this on. Let's get some glue and get going. And here we are back with our dried sandy bases. And look at that. That really ties it all together. Very nice. Just gets it to be a much more complete product. And we've got one final, well, that's all coming off. Meh, throw it away. We've got one final part, and that is the lava process. Now, this is ridiculously easy, and I see a lot of people going wrong with, simple techniques like this. Don't worry about the airbrush. All you need is a nice fat and or old paintbrush. And we are going to be using the fancy technique known as stippling. Not really fancy. I am being facetious. Alright, should the word of the day be facetious? Maybe. Alright. First, I like to get a lot of red around, and we're going to, well, we started with this one, but that one's kind of hard to see what I'm painting, so I'm going to do it in this one. We're just going to coat the entire area in the middle in red. Now, I have put a few extra pieces of bark in the center. We might not want to do those entire things, but we're just going to get that first layer of red in place. All over. We are being as messy as we feel like here. Alright, I like that. That shows us where our main part of painting is. And at this stage too, because we want to be a little bit with the glow that lava has, we might want to just hit the undersides and kind of like the sides around, just at the tips of these larger shards. That shows that our light being given off here is extreme. Look at that. See? Getting all up there. Getting in and around where we can reach. All around the sides, under the bottom. Now, we're not going to see the under part. I don't know. It just helps you get into that mindset of where that glow is coming from. Alright. That looks simple for now, but we're going to keep changing that. Now, I'm going to get my lovely black here. And just dab a tiny bit into the red I'm doing. There we go. Now this is kind of the overglow. This is where rocks have started to like burn a little bit, heat up with this heat of the lava. And we're going to kind of be very liberal with it, especially on the inside areas. That is the area of rock that's getting very hot right now. Let's put in our black again. Get a bit more. And yeah, we're going to really kind of hit the upper edges and even along the cracks around here of our lava area. That brings that kind of feeling of heat now already, showing our rocks as they are being warmed. Now, of course, one thing is you can leave it with just the center being that lava area. But we could go a bit step further and have some of these outside areas having some of that lava seep through. So we're just going to be very easy here, hitting some of those. Might actually help to have a smaller brush, but we're going to go with it. Just kind of hitting the areas where you think that lava is spilling out. Kind of around where we left that hot glue. Got the hiccups tonight. There we go. See? We're already getting in those spaces. We're showing the red. And that's one thing I like to do here. Just when you hit an upper area, just wipe it over. That leaves just a residue of paint there. It actually kind of helps. Get your hands in there. That's what I always say. Alright, see, we're just going to rub that around the area. Blend it in. Alright. Chuck a little bit there. Just to add a little bit of heat. And maybe under this one. Alright, I like that. I like it a lot. Now we've got enough. I think I need to hit the under here, like it's pouring out. There we go. Look at that. Alright, I can see another part here where I'd like it. Now, if you weren't like me, you'd probably be using a smaller brush to get in those areas properly. But sometimes, especially in this stage, the overbrush with the red actually really helps. You want to hit those areas around where you actually want to get as well. Right. Now for the coming up parts, I will want a smaller brush. I'm grabbing it now. Boop. Maybe not just yet though. It's slightly smaller. It'll do. Alright. Now, since we've got our red down, we're going to go straight into the orange. And we're not going to wait for it to dry, because we don't need to. Part of this stippling process I do with lava is just keep going in with progressively lighter and lighter colors. And that's how you get a really good blend to the lava effect. And because you're a bit more random with this stippling approach. So you see on this how I'm doing. I just kind of hit like that. And you see how like random that looks on the palette. How a little bit spread out. We're going to get really clumped up in the middle and just spread out kind of lightly around that. And the lighter you go around it, it will actually blend with this red we've already placed down. So we're going to go completely orange in the middle. See, we're going completely orange, and then we're starting to spread out. Just lightly at first. And you might even want to get a little bit of extra red so you can blend it in around that area. And while you've got this nice bright light color, we're going to take a little bit of it and we're going to use that to kind of spread that heat around. Now we've got a lot of red up above, but we just want to kind of, really kind of sporadically hit areas. Like that light is glowing off everything around it, which it kind of is. We don't need to hit every part of those. We just need to hit a few parts, especially where you think that light's going to shine. Around those open bases around there, around here. Not too much over this side, although we can definitely start hitting around here, just to show that the light is bouncing in the area. Just around where we've added those lava pieces. Alright, now let's pick up our smaller brush. Still going with the orange, but I'm going to hit these smaller areas around here. Just ever so slightly. Alright, see? That is going well. Now, because that orange isn't going very far, I'm going to go with a yellow now. Now, I don't have a pure yellow. I'll probably have to get one of my miniature paints for that. But before we get there, we're going to go with a little bit of an ochre and keep that process going. Hitting that inner area, lightening it up with the stippling. Sometimes you even want to get a bit closer with some of that yellow. Like, lava is weird like that. Sometimes the brighter parts do punch through in odd ways. And you see how that is really starting to brighten. And yeah, some of these hangy bits we might even want to hit with that much brighter yellow at the same time, like the light's bouncing up. There we go. I like that. I like it a lot. All right. Now, I actually need a smaller brush. That didn't do the process. Let's get a proper one and start going in around here. And this one we're going to be a bit more careful because these are smaller areas. Just ever so slightly tapping around the area. Using our finger to blend when we need. Just gonna tap, tappy, tappy. Alright, and if we think we've gone too far with it, go back to the orange, come back again. And this won't show fully until we've actually... Now, for the stippling, actually does help to have a really old brush that hasn't... where the bristles have like spread apart and all that kind of junk. If you keep those kind of things around, that is mighty useful at this stage. Of course, that stippling will be even more nicely randomized around the space. Right, continuing to add that yellow to the spaces where we think that lava is coming from. Just brushing with our finger if we get somewhere else, because it'll blend out. Alright, I like that so far. That's really starting to pop already. You can see those colours starting to come together. Alright, let's get a little bit of this popping elsewhere around. Right, now we need to go with the full yellow. Now, I am going to use one of my miniature paints because I don't have a big old acrylic bottle. But you probably shouldn't do this if you're going with terrain. Well, it is kind of okay at this stage. I'll allow it just because it's one of those areas where we don't want a big brush, we want a small one, so we're not using too much of it. You know, it's kind of okay. Ooh, I found a brush. That one, look at that. Look how ugly that little brush is. That thing is perfect. Alright, we've got our nice bright yellow there. And we're going to add it where we want. So just kind of stippling around that center. Sometimes it even helps get a little bit of that paint off. Stippling around. Just moving that ever so slightly. I'm going to bring this light over so you can just see exactly in. So you can see how I'm moving it around. Now at the moment it is blending with that orange. That's great, we want that. That's okay, you keep doing your business. We're just coming in, continuing to stipple it around. Moving that color. Maybe a little bit of a flick up in here occasionally where you feel like it needs it. Just to bounce that color around. Alright, let's hit some of these sides. In there. Around here a little bit. I lost a little bit here. Let's get a bit of red instead. Bring that orange back. There we go. Shouldn't be just doing it on my pad table, but that's what I do. Alright. Get the yellow again, continuing to highlight where we think we want it. Just sporadic, mostly around that center area, but also occasionally off in the sides. Moving around. That looks very warm. Now the last part to this is getting the final kind of white in there. We are going to be very light with this. Oh, that's not white, that is brown. Don't mind the brown. Getting the white that we need. Now, I don't even need to take it out of this because we're going to use so little of it that it's probably not going to matter. But this is that final little bit of like brightness it needs to really hit that. I know part of your brain that says, ooh, warm. Just dabbing that around in the middle. There is no white there at all. Alright. Fine. You get it on the palette. That is way too much. Thank you. Alright. Probably melting a little bit. Let's watch this. It's got too much orange on it. Most of this process with the blending, I do like that. You know, get a little bit blending with the colors from before. But with this white, we're doing the barest minimum of dabbings. Just in a few key areas around that center. It's going to go in with the yellow, and it's going to look super, super bright there. Alright, I think that is pretty much finished. Now, one final thing you can do is get some of that black. Get a nice little dabby area with your ugly brush. And kind of helps to like dab around edges, especially in here. We're just going to like hit away from the rocks we've made. And that kind of shows that this like area is like, you know, cooling on the sides. We haven't exactly, you know, that's what lava does. It kind of heats up in middle areas where it can just let off all that heat. Right. There we go. Just bring it out a little bit if you can sometimes. Now, if you've got one of those like texture pastes that does crack, one of those really nice black ones, you could use that as well here. That would create a really nice effect, but I'm just going to go with it with the paint for now. Just show that we are lightening areas in, maybe even around the sides here where we did that other colorings. Just, I know, it does a little bit of extra variation to that rock cover. Alright, brush it, dab it. Cool, I like it. Alright, I am going to get stuck in with the other ones. That looks pretty damn cool already. Sit that on the tabletop, have some fun with it. Alright, thanks for sticking around everyone, and I will see you next time.
I bring flames.